Hello, Philosophy 353. Welcome to week 3 of the course. We are moving right along, and so let's go ahead and jump right into the mini lecture for this week. As usual, make sure that you are watching these lectures. I intentionally try and keep them rather short. There's lots of materials to go through in this course, so you need to make sure that you are keeping up to date on all of them, making sure that you're watching everything and managing your time really well. Some weeks are lighter than others. And so, to be honest, week 3, I think is going to be a little bit lighter. Some of the other weeks, I know there's some long documentaries, but there's some great material that's getting put in front of you. So just make sure you're anticipating and looking ahead each week at what is required of you. So for the reading this week, Farhadian, we're going to look at part 7 of it. And again, I'm emphasizing the parts or the chapters you're reading just because there was some discrepancy with the page numbers. So you'll be looking at part 7 on Judaism. And with Morgan, you'll be looking at chapters 6 through 8. Skip chapter 9 for now. And then you'll also be looking at chapters 10 through 11. And then also the Alison Castaldo book, you'll be going from chapter 4 and finishing that book to the conclusion this week as well. Two relatively brief videos this week: the origins of Judaism and also what is Judaism. So, two videos this week, a little bit on the shorter side. So, that's good. Hopefully, you'll get a little bit of a break from some of the longer ones on the other weeks. You'll also begin working on your service attendance number 2 on the Jewish or Islamic tradition. Now, last week we had you combine 2 of those. This week we're just down to the 1. So, you'll be looking at Jewish or Islamic tradition. Some questions on that too that I've seen. Some people were, if you can go in person, that's always the best experience for sure. But fortunately, in today's age, a lot of these you're able to engage online. I do recommend, highly recommend, and would highly prefer doing an online live attendance. So not doing a recording or something like that, but actually attending it live and seeing it live is best if you're going to do that online option. Make sure that you're using that template. And if you do it online, you're just talking about that experience the best you can, engaging through that online one. Obviously, you're not going to be talking with people and engaging with it, but you're still experiencing it as you're looking through your screen, right? So you're going to be talking about it from that perspective. But again, just to clarify, in person is best if you can, okay? If you can. You also need to begin working on the book review. Now, if you go to week 3, it starts talking about that. This will be due in week 6, but we want to get ahead of it. Okay, so there is going to be a list of books that you can choose from there. So if you go down into week 6, you'll be able to see some of the details about the book review. So I just want to put that out in front of you so that you're looking ahead and not caught off guard that there's going to be this book review that is done. Okay, and then lastly, begin prepping for the quarterly exam number 2. You now know these are pretty difficult exams, okay? And the best advice I can give you is make sure that you're doing all of the reading in detail, watching these videos closely, and then the other supplemental videos and documentaries, going through those carefully as well. Okay. So I think some of you were caught off guard a little bit by the difficulty of these. And the best advice I can give is just come to them prepared. There's 3 forms of material: these mini lectures, the readings, and then the documentaries/videos that I show. If you go through all 3 of those and you're doing it in good detail, that is the best way to prepare yourself for these quizzes. So just keep that in mind. Okay, so Judaism, that is what we're looking at this week. And we're focusing just on this one world religion. And so let's start off with just a brief history. Again, you're going to be doing reading on this week. I have these 2 other supplemental videos, so I like to not do overkill with it. So I just want to give you some key highlights here as we get started. First of all, Judaism is considered the foundation, really, of the 3 major world religions, and that is Christianity, Islam, Judaism. Judaism really is at the foundation of those. And if you're familiar with the Bible at all and Christian history, or even Islamic history, you'll know that Judaism is the foundation of these. And it traces its origins to the beginning of man back in Genesis 1:3. Each one of these, Christianity, Islam, and also Judaism would all be foundational in Genesis 1:3. And that it's important for you to understand that about where they start differing, okay? So the story of Adam, the story of Adam and Eve, up through Abraham, and the covenant that's made with Abraham, that is largely going to be not only what dictates how Christianity comes about, where Christ is the fulfillment of these original covenants, but also Islam too is going to be connected to what covenant was made with Abraham, who was the heir of that covenant. Okay, and we'll talk more about that next week. So the story of the Hebrews, as told in the Old Testament, that really is the story of Judaism. Christianity has very close connections to Judaism because it all stems from the story of Israel. And that is really big today, too, as there's a lot of things that are being talked about politically with the state of Israel as well. So God made Israel into a great nation. This nation falls, and Jews in Judaism are still waiting for the Messiah to come and reestablish the great kingdom. This is the main difference with Christianity, where Christ is seen as that Messiah, and the New Testament is written. Judaism would reject Christ for the most part. There is Messianic Jews. We'll talk about that. But Jews, as far as observant Jews today, would reject Christ as Messiah, would reject the New Testament, and they are still living in the Old Testament, awaiting for that Messiah. Judaism has went through a lot of changes over the last 2,000 years, which you're going to see, and there are a lot of variations and changes that have come about because of that. Some of those changes are the major sects that exist in Judaism today. Just a brief overview. The book will talk about this in a little bit more detail. Orthodox Judaism, they believe strictly in the Torah, which is the first 5 books of the Bible. There's a strict adherence in households to living out these things very, very specifically. They continue with things like food observances. Men and women are segregated. They're very traditional in that sense. This is kind of one of the most common forms of Judaism today, Orthodox Judaism. Hasidic Judaism, they are considered ultra Orthodox, even more so than the general Orthodox. So, kind of like that next, like the conservative of conservatives. They stress the study of not only the Torah, but also Jewish literature is a very big component of it. This is the form that originated in Poland as well. And these are typically, if you've seen like some videos or documentaries on it, they'll wear the black wide brimmed hats, the ones with the long beards, long coats, and also the long sideburns that come down. This is this form or this sect of Judaism. And so a lot of people, when they have a visual of it, this is often what they're thinking of. Then we have conservative, okay? Similar to Orthodox, but the Torah and the Talmud are taught and observed. This also would contain Zionism, which is really big politically right now. This is that modern political movement in the creation of the Jewish state and the reestablishing of the Jewish state. So Zionism is going to be that branch that is really focused on Israel having a new nation being established. We know 1948. That Israel becomes a nation, and Zionism is really big on the reestablishing of that Jewish state and back to those observances. And so that's much more of a political aspect of it, which is important, but not as much important as we're looking at it from the standpoint of understanding the religion as a whole. There's also Reform Judaism, and this is a relatively newer branch that believes that Jews have the right to decide which belief and practices they want to follow. It's kind of more, I guess you would say, liberal, which Reform typically is more conservative, but in this sense, Reform would mean kind of more of a liberal perspective. Conversion to an adherence to Judaism is also much more simplified. It makes it a lot easier for you to become a Jew and for you to kind of choose your observance of Judaism, if you can put it that way. And then one other brief one, the reading will also talk about this. Messianic Jews combine many aspects of Judaism with Christianity. These are people who are really at the core are Jews, but have seen Christ to be the Messiah and accept Christ, and for the most part accept the New Testament also as being the official word of God, and would still continue on with many of the practices that we would find with Judaism today. Largely, sometimes the Sabbath day is still kept on Saturday and not Sunday. And there is also the observance of the holy days and high holy days as well that's often incorporated too. So Jews that believe that Jesus is the Messiah, they accept that. Real quick, some of the beliefs in sacred texts, ethics are absolutely foundational to Judaism. Again, this is all founded on the first 5 books of the Old Testament. This is the absolute backbone of Judaism. There's also the 13 Articles of Faith that was created by a 12th century rabbi. Reading goes in more detail on this, and this really summarizes Judaism. Similar to the Ten Commandments, but the Ten Commandments obviously is found in the Torah, but these 13 Articles of Faith are a little bit different. And again, you'll see that in a little bit more detail through your reading and also the videos. Things of a developmental nature, things like circumcision, very, very important for religious purposes, bar mitzvah, bat mitzvah, coming of age ceremonies, very, very central to Judaism, regardless of, for the most part, regardless of the sect of Judaism as well. And then engaging in it, if you choose to go to a observance and see a service of Judaism, you will do so at a synagogue, which is kind of like, for Christians, we call it church. That's where we go and worship, in the house of the Lord. Theirs is still kept in a synagogue, which really translates as house of prayer. This is where the Sabbath would be observed, the festival days will be observed. The synagogue is something that was created after the destruction of the temple. So before the destruction of the temple in 70 CE or 70 AD, that's where worship would have taken place. But the synagogue was created to replace the destruction of the temple, and it's been that way for nearly the last 2,000 years. Typically, Jews, Torah observant Jews, will recite prayers 3 times a day. That some of them do it in groups, some of it do it verbally, some would do so just in their own minds, making sure they're observing that. There is a lot of variation there. And some major symbols of Judaism, the menorah. This is what you would see, the 12 candles that come out. It's very big during what we would call our Christmas season as Christians. Hanukkah is celebrated at this time, but the menorah has a lot of symbolism. The Jewish star as well, very central, which the reading will talk about, but and also the Chai symbol. The Chai symbol is something that really represents life, and it's you'll see an image of this that is very important in Judaism. They'll often wear it on necklaces and other forms of jewelry as well. So hopefully that gives you a good overview of what you'll be looking at this week. Okay. If you have any questions, please let me know. Very important that you understand Judaism and its foundation, because Judaism, Islam, and Christianity, 3 major world religions. The Crusades were fought over these. It's still part of the conflicts today. This makes up, by far, these 3 religions, the large majority of religion in the entire world today. So you have to really understand the connection of these. And from a Christian perspective, you have to understand how these varied. Christ is going to be central, right? Being the Messiah who did come to save, and also who that covenant was given to. That's going to be the offshoot of Islam, which we'll look at in a little bit more detail next week. Okay, happy learning. Let me know if you have any questions. Take care, and I will see all of you soon.